Hello, and welcome back to A Real Horror Show. And boy do I have a great video for you guys today, as in the last weekend just gone, we had the annual San Diego Comic-Con, and we got some incredible horror action figure announcements and reveals from various companies, including of course none other than NECA. Just like every year, horror fans and collectors alike are eagerly awaiting for this event, as NECA always have an abundance of brand new horror collectibles on display for release in the coming year, and they always have some exciting and surprising announcements too. And it's safe to say, NECA have not disappointed this year and they've come through with the goods. I think a lot of people who weren't so happy with NECA's horror output this year may be holding their tongues now. I for one am honestly psyched for all these upcoming horror releases, and I can't wait to share the reveals with you guys. Now without further ado, let's get to it. So on display at NECA's San Diego Comic-Con booth are many recently announced horror figures, including all the ones we took a look at after the Monster Mayhem event. This includes the American Werewolf in London 2-pack of Jack and David, the Krampus figures, the Ultimate Festive Chucky, Hannibal Lecter, Christopher Lee's Dracula, Vincent Price, who is coming in a very fitting and fancy display box, and other previous announcements such as the upcoming Ultimate Megan and the controversial Beetlejuice figures, but we're going to come back to that one later. But of course, NECA have unveiled a boatload of extremely exciting upcoming horror figures, and once again they've blown it out of the water. So I guess we'll begin by taking a look at a few Toony Terror announcements, which comprises of these new silver screen black and white variants of previously released Toony Terror figures. This includes Nosferatu, Vincent Price, an alien from They Live, and Vampira. Also on display at Comic-Con are these Leatherface Toony Terrors of Leatherface in both his killing mask and Pretty Woman attire in celebration of 50 years of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. And speaking of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, many people, including myself, were really hoping that NECA were going to produce some Ultimate action figures in celebration of this big anniversary. And I'm so happy to say that once again NECA have followed through with the fans' wishes and are bringing us two of the most anticipated announcements from the convention, as we're getting not one but two figures of Leatherface himself as he appeared in Tobe Hooper's 1974 classic. Taking a closer look at the figure of Leatherface in his iconic killing mask, this seems to be a completely brand new figure from more or less the ground up when compared to the original Ultimate Leatherface figure that came out 10 years ago for the 40th anniversary. One of the main differences being the fact that Leatherface's apron is made from plastic, whereas the initial release had an apron made of a synthetic material, and also the head sculpt looks to be completely different too and looks a lot like the Leatherface head sculpt that was featured on the retro figure release. And this head in particular really reminds me of the scene where Leatherface kills Franklin. Overall, Leatherface looks great and I'm sure many of you guys will be wanting to pick this one up. But the other newly announced Leatherface figure is the one that I am truly excited about, as NECA are bringing us an Ultimate Leatherface figure donning his Pretty Woman attire as seen in the final act of the gritty horror classic. For me, this is my favourite look of Leatherface and a truly creepy and unnerving visual. The retro cloth release of the Pretty Woman Leatherface is one of my favourites from that figure line, so it's so cool that we're getting this in an ultimate form, and I've got to say the head sculpt on this is absolutely phenomenal. In fact, it might be one of the best head sculpts I've ever seen NECA produce. This is a totally outstanding looking release. Not only does the mask look like it jumped right out of the screen, but even the texture on the sculpt looks so realistic and the paint application looks marvellous. From the San Diego Comic-Con images, we can see that both figures come with various accessories, including of course Leatherface's chainsaw, a knife, a cleaver, a hammer, an armadillo which I assume will come with the Pretty Woman Leatherface, and a plate of meat, most likely human. It's hard to tell which accessories come with each figure, but I'll be picking up both of these guys anyway, especially that Pretty Woman figure. It's highly unlikely, but could you imagine if the Pretty Woman figure came with a display base like the Cult Classics release? This is why I wish that NECA would start bringing back diorama display pieces for these awesome new figures. It also seems like Leatherface is missing his bracelet, something that was featured with the original Ultimate release, but these figures may still come with that accessory yet. And in addition to the much anticipated anticipated Ultimate Megan figure, which was on display at the con, NECA have also announced that Megan will be getting the retro cloth treatment with this newly unveiled action figure. Megan will feature very well-tailored fabric clothing and come with multiple accessories that include interchangeable faceplates and hands, a battle-damaged head, a robot head with battle-damaged faceplates, a paper cutter, and a screwdriver. The interchangeable faceplate seems to be becoming the new norm for NECA releases instead of a complete alternate headpiece, and the Megan figure displays a very well-detailed face which sports a fantastic likeness. Megan will stand at 5 inches tall and come in the standard retro cloth window packaging. Another license that NECA will be producing new figures for is Tim Burton's The Nightmare Before Christmas, as brand new figures of Jack, Sally, and the mayor of Halloween Town were revealed at the convention. As we can see, we're getting not just one but two figures of Jack Skellington, with one depicting him in his Santa Claus costume. This figure of Jack also comes with a portrait and a sack of various presents. The regular version of Jack Skellington has the character donning his iconic pinstriped suit, with a more menacing facial expression and accessories that include multiple pumpkins, a jack-o'-lantern jack-in-the-box, and a separate figure of his companion, Zero. Coming over to Sally, this figure is wonderfully detailed from head to toe and comes with a lot of extras, including her black cat that also comes with a plate with fish bones, a potion bottle of deadly nightshade, a cat jack-in-the-box, and her basket with various bottles. There's also a large pumpkin on display next to Sally, but I'm unsure if this belongs to her or the Halloween Town mayor. Speaking of who, is also getting an action figure release, and this guy looks fantastic. I assume that he will feature another face on the back of his head, just like in the movie, and as we can see, he comes with a megaphone and a large book for assigning jobs to the many monsters of Halloween Town. NECA made a whole figure line for Nightmare Before Christmas many years ago, so it's great to see them return to this license with these really great looking new figures. And perhaps these figures on display will be just the first series of an entirely new figure line. Now, you may remember from the recent video I made about NECA's upcoming horror figures, we took a close look at the recent reissue of the prison escape Hannibal Lecter, and I said that I can imagine NECA also re-releasing their other figure of Hannibal Lecter from the Cult Classics line that featured Hannibal the Cannibal strapped onto the gurney wearing the iconic face mask. And well, it's happening. And that's not the only thing from NECA that I have predicted to come true, but we'll get to that later. Similar to the prison escape figure, the masked Lecter features an entirely new head sculpt with a much more accurate face sculpt to the great Sir Anthony Hopkins. However, there is one extremely striking issue with this figure, and it's the mask. If you're a fan of the Silence of the Lambs or a horror fan in general, you'll probably notice straight away that the mask is not film accurate at all in many ways. I have a pretty much exact replica of the iconic mask in my own horror collection made by Fiberglass Masks, and the differences are glaring. From the location of the holes in the mask, with the nose holes being completely different, and then what is probably the biggest issue, the mouth hole with the small metal bars is just way off. And this really sucks because the mask is such an iconic aspect of this character in what is probably the most memorable imagery from the whole movie. However, this is definitely not NECA's fault. I'm not 100% sure on the full story, but I believe the person who was responsible with designing and fabricating the iconic mask for the movie actually holds the copyright over its design. This is probably also why Blitzway's 1/6 scale Lecter figure featured a slightly inaccurate face mask. As I said, this is really unfortunate, but sometimes that's just the way it is. Moving on now to another character receiving a brand new figure variant, we have Elvira, as she appears in the final act of the movie Elvira, Mistress of the Dark, in her commando attire. This new retro cloth figure is the newest addition to NECA's growing Elvira line and was released first as a Walmart Collector-Con exclusive, along with an autograph card signed by Cassandra Peterson herself. The figure comes with an interchangeable faceplate, a bazooka, spellbook, dagger, and a slick black base displaying Elvira's autograph. And this isn't the only upcoming Elvira related collectible showcased by NECA at San Diego Comic-Con, as, along with Commando Elvira and all the previous Elvira figures, Elvira's signature red couch was also on display. Now, this couch isn't the same scale as the retro cloth Elvira figures we've received, so it's basically a hint that an Ultimate Elvira will soon be on the way. Now let's take a look at all the various monster figures that were announced at the convention, starting with a black and white figure of one of horror's earliest icons, Nosferatu. This brand new figure of the terrifying Count 𝙁𝙁𝙎 from the 1922 classic depicts the vampire in his riding robe with a hat and whip accessory. The robe itself is made from a cloth material, which is a really nice touch, and the figure will also come with 2 alternate head sculpts. Just like the previously released Nosferatu figure, Count 𝙁𝙁𝙎 looks phenomenal, and this is a variant of the character that I really was never expecting to see in action figure form. One thing that I truly love, and have especially loved about NECA in recent times, is that they are producing a lot of horror collectibles that are much more niche, and we're getting these left field releases more and more lately. And of course, NECA have more figures on the way for their much beloved Universal Monsters line, including a new figure of 𝙁𝙁𝙎, as portrayed by Boris Karloff in 1932's The Mummy. And I've got to say that this figure features a perfect likeness to the great Boris Karloff, and the alternate decaying head sculpts are also ridiculously detailed and overall look fantastic. The figure will come with multiple accessories, including a staff and an ancient Egyptian scroll. Also revealed was the new Kemp House variant of the Invisible Man, as played by Claude Rains in the 1933 movie. And I just want to say that I absolutely adore Claude Rains's crazy, magnificently villainous performance as the Invisible Man in that film.
I'll show you who I am and what I am.
The figure portrays Jack Griffin wearing a bathrobe from the scene where he turns up at his friend Arthur Kemp's house and forces him to become his visible partner in crime.
We'll begin with a reign of terror. A few murders here and there.
Included with the figure is Griffin's science notebooks and seemingly a total of 5 different head sculpts. All in all, both of these Ultimate Universal Monster figures look brilliant, and they're a great addition to the line. But NECA aren't finished there with the classic monsters, as they have announced a NECA store exclusive Crypt Club 4-pack featuring figures of Dracula, Frankenstein, the Wolfman, and the Creature from the Black Lagoon, in the style of the Burger King monster toys of the 1990s. These figures were previously released by NECA exclusively to Loot Crate in polybags, but are now being released together in a 4-pack with the added accessory of a red coffin for Dracula. While staying very faithful to the nostalgic monster toys of the 90s, these figures are much more detailed in both sculpt, paint, and all have the up-to-date Ultimate figure bodies and articulation. Since the original toys came out a couple years before I even existed, and I'm not even sure if Burger King sold these toys in England, I don't personally have any nostalgia for these figures, but I still love the concept of these guys and I think they look fantastic. So one of the most exciting announcements from NECA at the convention, at least for me personally, came in the form of this Ultimate Horror of Dracula Van Helsing figure, and this will be the second figure in NECA's upcoming Hammer Horror line, with the first figure being the Ultimate Christopher Lee Dracula that will be getting his release shortly. When the Dracula figure and the Hammer Horror line was announced, I said to you guys that I really hope the next figure for the line will be Peter Cushing as Van Helsing, and once again, NECA have delivered the goods. Overall, the figure has an exceptional likeness to the legend that is Peter Cushing, and I'm just so thankful that we're seeing these absolute icons of the genre get the ultimate figure treatment. Van Helsing comes with a total of 3 head sculpts, with one that depicts the vampire hunter wearing a hat, and another that depicts a more intense alternate face from his final encounter with Dracula. In terms of accessories, Van Helsing will come with alternate hands, a number of stakes and a hammer, and the candelabra he fashions into a crucifix to ultimately defeat the Count. Both of these Horror of Dracula figures are definitely must-haves for the collection, and I can't wait to see what else NECA has in store for the Hammer line. So now we're going to take a look at the biggest action figure highlights, and what I think are the most exciting announcements from NECA at San Diego Comic-Con. But before we do, please don't forget to slash that subscribe button if you haven't already, and leave a like on the video and a comment down below letting me know what you guys think is the most exciting figure reveal from NECA this year. In my last video, I talked about my disappointment with the recently announced figures of Beetlejuice from NECA, and that was a disappointment that was shared with a lot of horror collectors and NECA fans alike, which is why I'm especially pleased and happy to say that NECA have just made a bunch of Beetlejuice announcements that change everything. There was a lot of Beetlejuice stuff on display at NECA's San Diego Comic-Con booth, so let's dive into it. First things first, the reissued cult classic Beetlejuice figures that were the focus of my previous video were on display along with the 18-inch Talking Beetlejuice re-release. But as you probably noticed, the cult classic figures will be getting released with alternate packaging. The striped suit Beetlejuice will be released in this alternate box packaging that also includes a journal that resembles the book for the recently deceased from the movie, which is a pretty cool little addition for this reissue. On the other hand, the wedding tuxedo variant will be coming in a very angular box that is reminiscent of the Deet's house fireplace, and it's called Till Death Do Us Part. I'm not entirely sure if this version will be coming with an added bonus like the journal, but I'm sure we'll get the answers to that soon enough. But now here's where things get really exciting, and where NECA have proven that it was wrong to lose faith in them, as they revealed their brand new, and this time when I say brand new, I don't mean a reissue, I mean from the ground up, spiked trench coat Beetlejuice. Based on his appearance in the Dante's Inferno room strip club scene, this new figure of the bio-exorcist depicts him wearing his trench coat with protruding spikes and features an ultimate figure body with all the articulation, and a fantastic head sculpt that has a brilliant likeness to the great Michael Keaton. I said in my previous video that I think the cult classic sculpts have aged really well, but when put next to this brand new figure, the upgrade is clear as day. It's not clear yet as to what accessories this figure will come with, if any, but it's a very exciting announcement nonetheless. But not only are we getting this spiked trenchcoat figure of the ghost with the most, but NECA also had this card reading "Coming Soon" on display, and you may notice that the logo here is that of the upcoming sequel, Beetlejuice Beetlejuice. Well, I'm extremely happy to say, and it has been officially announced by NECA, that we will be getting an ultimate Beetlejuice figure based on his appearance from the upcoming film. So I'm sure that everyone who is doubting NECA, including me, will definitely be holding their tongues now, and I for one cannot wait to see this figure officially revealed. And my thoughts and feelings considering the reissued figures have now completely changed. I actually love the fact that despite brand new upgraded Beetlejuice figures are coming our way from NECA, including an ultimate, the company have decided to put out these reissues when they probably didn't really have to. It's all just in celebration for this character and the upcoming long-awaited sequel. And what a time to be a Beetlejuice fan. And yet, this wasn't the final surprise from NECA regarding the Beetlejuice character, as on display with the other Beetlejuice figures, there was a large collectible hidden beneath a black sheet, and it was unveiled to be an absolutely magnificent diorama display piece of Dante's Inferno room that will be available for purchase later on in the year. I mean, just look at how incredible this thing is. We've seen NECA release diorama pieces for the figures in the past, but this is just on a whole new level. Not only is this an absolute beast of a set, being in scale with the new figures, but they've also captured the Inferno room down to the smallest details. On top of this, they've also gone the extra mile, as the Dante sign also lights up with LED lights. This will be the perfect display for all Beetlejuice figures, especially that upcoming trenchcoat figure. But even without figures, this piece will make for an unreal display in any collection. NECA have certainly gone the extra mile for Beetlejuice, and I've got to say, I genuinely think this year has been one of the best ever for horror announcements from NECA. And this statement is only solidified with the final San Diego Comic-Con horror figure announcement from NECA we'll be looking at today. Do you remember in my recent new horror figures and statues video, when we took a look at the Evil Dead figure teaser from NECA that was posted on Bruce Campbell's birthday, and I said this? So, I'm calling it right now. NECA is about to give us another Evil Dead double pack release that will feature both a more rugged Ash from the film's finale and the Deadite Cheryl. I mean, it's got to be that. I'm like f***ing Sherlock Holmes right now. Well, just call me the master of deduction, as we are indeed getting a brand new deluxe figure pack of both Ash Williams and Deadite Cheryl as they appear in Sam Raimi's horror classic, and I cannot wait for this figure pack. I never ever expected NECA to make more figures for the original Evil Dead film, never mind a box set, and it's important to note that this is the first time, and maybe the only time, that Deadite Cheryl will be getting an action figure release. So taking a closer look at the figures themselves, we have a very bloodied and rugged Ash as seen in the movie's final act, and this figure has a brilliant likeness to the King, Bruce Campbell, and also features details such as the rip at the bottom of the pants where Linda attacks him. Ash comes comes with a bloodied axe, chainsaw, and a really cool little cross diorama display replicating Linda's grave. Now when it comes to Cheryl, NECA have absolutely hit it out of the park with this one. The sculpting and paintwork is just top notch, and the alternate heads look incredible. Not only are we getting a head sculpt of Cheryl from when she initially becomes possessed, but also a head sculpt of her iconic look while locked in the cellar, and a decaying Cheryl head from Tom Sullivan's awesome stop motion sequence in the film's finale. Cheryl will come with her sketch pad with the drawing of the cabin's clock and a pencil accessory to recreate that extremely infamous and gory ankle piercing scene. To say that I'm excited for this deluxe figure pack is an understatement, and it's something that I've been hoping to get from NECA for the best of 10 years, so it's a pretty big deal. Overall, NECA have made some spectacular announcements at this year's San Diego Comic-Con, and have once again just blown it out of the water. I still think that it's been one of the best years yet for horror figure announcements from the company, and there's certainly a lot of collectibles for you horror fans and collectors to look forward to in the near future. But what are your opinions on these latest horror figure reveals? Please let me know your thoughts and feelings in the comment section below. And until next time guys, take care.